Alright, welcome to Operation End Times. I'm your Jedi Warrior for Jesus, Ben Hellestead. This is Synchronicity of the Ages, Part 11. The big event, number 2. We're just going to jump right into it. I'm trying to wrap up this series, so, just try and bear with me. But, the synchronicity of the ages, we've been talking about the ending of one age, the beginning of another age, going from a linear model to an eternal model. We've been getting neck deep into the imagery because it's going from a carnal mind to a spiritual mind. So, today being Synchronicity Part 11, the first synchronization I'm going to throw at you is the 11s. We're going to go to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 11, verse 1. It says, "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to the 7, and also to the 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth." And I tell you what, my friends, that whole verbiage is very similar to the verbiage that you see several times throughout the Bible, starting in Genesis 1 and also with Noah, which is time either beginning or a transition of time or the end of time. But the imagery is of waters rising from and meeting, what waters that were divided coming back together. Some people can only see it on a 3D carnal perspective, where in their minds they have to see physical water like an ocean, like the water literally goes from the heavens to the earth. I don't know if that's even possible. But what I've been telling them is, hey man, the water really represents spirituality. So the waters can be divided because there's the water, the living water of God, which is holy and pure, and then there's like darker, bitter waters, the deep waters. Now, if you take deep water, it's like depravity, deep cavity of water, depravity. But depravity is complete loss of control to wickedness and sin. And that's what the deep waters, what's down in there, the dark secrets, is you will find depravity. Because it's kind of like walking away from God. So you don't really want to be swimming around in the deep waters. People are portrayed as fish. Fish swim in a school. And therefore, humans, we're supposed to travel, move through the waters, and hopefully get to where Jesus, you're walking on the waters, move across the waters, like the Spirit of God moved across the waters. But basically, Ecclesiastes 11:1 says, "Cast thy bread upon the waters." That's the Spirit across the waters. But that's what happens in Genesis. The Spirit of God moves across the waters, and in Noah, the ark moves across the waters. And the next series, Building the Ark, we're going to be talking about moving across the waters. Now, here in San Jose, California, it is February 22nd, 2014. It is a gloriously sunny day out there. And the moon is in the sky, and it's split right in half, man. Half light, half dark. So we're looking at like the light side of the moon and the dark side of the moon today. And I was out there this morning, and the morning star, Venus, was up in the sky shining brilliantly, But the moon kind of represents that two-faced God. The moon represents wisdom, the man in the moon. Wisdom is a woman. The light of the moon, wisdom, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And fear is very important to what's going on right now in the changing of the ages, because the stories are the same. The dark side, they have a consummation of a queen to a king, and a birth of something. And on the light side, it's the same thing. It's Christ marrying the bride, the believers, the followers, and a new man being born, who I'm going to call the whale man or the whole man. The letters are basically the same. Whale man, the whole man. Jonah came out of the hole of the whale, and he was whole when he came out of the whale. The whole man, if you put it on paper, actually spells woman and man together, complete, as a circle, whole again. But the circuitry is not 2, it's 3, because it's like water. Hydrogen's at the top and then 2 oxygens, male and female. But first you bond with the hydrogen, and then as a triune bond, oxygen to oxygen, the 2 oxens, the cattle, to the higher hydrogen, the high dragon, the higher spirit, becomes the pure water. So anyway, looking at Ecclesiastes 11, it's syncing up with Synchronicity 11. It says, give a portion to the 7 and also to the 8. Well, guess what? When Noah loaded the ark with the beasts, the fowls, and the creepy crawly things, I was talking to one of my brothers yesterday, kind of laying on him like, hey man, that's people they're talking about, not animals. And he just could not get off of it. He's like, no, it's animals. I'm like, dude, I want to open your mind. So I'm going to meet with him and others, because I can easily prove, that animals are people. Like another 11 synchronization is the book of Hosea 11:11. It says they, who are they? It's people in Egypt. It says they shall tremble as a bird out of Egypt. That's the children of Israel coming out of Egypt with Moses. But it's comparing them to a bird. As a dove out of the land of Assyria, I will place them in their houses, saith the Lord. So right there in Hosea 11:11, it's talking about they, people, trembling like a bird, and as a dove out of the land of Assyria. And a dove represents people who are walking with God. Like when Jesus was baptized, the Spirit came down in the form of a dove, But was it a dove? No. It's imagery, spiritual imagery. So, man, I tell you, brothers and sisters who, they think they're walking in the Spirit, but then you throw something at them like, hey, man, there's a truth to Noah's Ark here, that the people that could have got on board, because Noah was like, I'm building a boat, help me. They laughed and mocked. Those were the other birds, the spiritually enlightened, the rulers, the mighty men. They laughed at Noah and mocked him, and they continued on with their eating, their drinking, and their marrying, which is the carnal life, because they couldn't see spiritually what was about to unfold. So when the time came and the door was opened, they didn't get in. But God sent Noah the birds, the beasts, and the creepy crawly things, and that's 3 levels of people. And the ark was set up for 3 levels. So here in Ecclesiastes 11 verse 2, and they called them, in Ecclesiastes it says, give a portion to the 7 of the bread, and also to the 8. Well, the clean birds, beasts, and crawly things came by 7s, right? But the unclean came by 2, male and female. So 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. It's a cube. It's a 3-dimensional carnal thing. So it's talking about people of earth, the 2 times the 2 times the 2, which is the 222, which is today, February 22nd. But that's the 8. It's birds, beasts, and creepy crawly things got on to the ark, but it's telling you here in Ecclesiastes, give them, the 8s, some of the bread too, so that they can be fed. And it isn't talking about actual bread, it's talking about spiritual bread, the bread of life. So what got onto that ark was a messload of humanity, man, not just 8 people. But there were people that didn't get on the ark, and it's a smaller portion of people. See, that's the glory. Those who can truly see the light is that in the transitionary period, like even in Revelations, it's a multitude of people that no man could number, that are around the throne of God. But there are some people that get shut out, because the people that were invited to the wedding didn't show up. So the king threw open the doors and invited everybody else in. And what I would tell you is, to me, the vibe I'm getting, man, is today, 222, is the beginning of the loading of the ark. The door has been lowered down. How long the door stays open, I can't tell you, but time is of the essence. But 222, 2014, the numbers to me look like the loading of the ark, because it's the 222, the 8s, maybe it's the call for the 8s to start getting on board, but 2014, the 14 is 7 plus 7, the 7s, and 20 is 2 plus 0, which means that's a 2 oxens, 2 beasts, male and female. And you know why it's plus 0? Because they're not connected to the higher dragon, the hydrogen, the spiritual. There's no life in them, so they're counted as like an animal, but God loves them and they're people. And once they see the glory, they're born elevated to a new higher standing and ranking. They're born as a son or a daughter, I know that's hard to comprehend, man, but that's what's really going down. All right. The synchronicity of the ages, I think the climax, for the dark side, it's fire, a consummation through sex, a birth, back in Genesis, I think it was Genesis 9, it talks about they came out of the east, they were all of one language, and they decided to build a tower that reached unto heaven. Well, guess what? God separated them all, divided the lands and the language, but mankind has kind of overcome that, overwhelmed it, through globalization and the internet. The new universal language is zeros and one, programming code. But what I will tell you is, man is never going to overcome God, and God is the number 2. So what God's seeing is that on earth, the shit's starting to pile up. So I'm going to tell you, my vision of the singularity of the rising and swirling of the waters is a big, huge galactic flush of a dump, where the crap's going to disappear. And I'll give you some verses out of Ecclesiastes, in Ecclesiastes 12, the very next chapter. But one thing it says in Ecclesiastes 11, it's talking about how in your younger years, you walk around following your own spirit, the spirit of a young man. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. But it says, therefore, Ecclesiastes 11:10, therefore remove the sorrow from thy heart and put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity. And it talks about maturing, which is not following your own will, but finally getting the eyes to see and the ears to hear and following the will of God. So if we go to Ecclesiastes 12, some really, really interesting stuff here. It starts off with Ecclesiastes 12:1. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, because it's in your latter days. Ecclesiastes 12:2, the 22. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And when we look at the day, in Revelations, it's when the sun does get darkened and the moon and the stars disappear. So the kingdom of man, he thinks he can make things that are everlasting, and that's why like the battery is called Everlast. It's like energy that never runs out. But we all know those batteries run out of energy. Mankind is always trying to build stuff to last, especially like the Great Pyramids and whatnot. But I will tell you, there is no work of the hand of man that is built to last. None whatsoever. And that's kind of what Ecclesiastes ends with. Is it says, Ecclesiastes 12:14, for God shall bring every work into judgment, and every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Things that man has created. So once again, in Synchronization 10, I was talking about Abraham went out looking for the city with the foundation that God had built, not a city that mankind had built. That's where we're at, my friends. Don't attach yourself to the works of mankind's hands, because you're going to be in a bad place, man. Even here in the modern age, in globalization, a lot of talk and words are said, even by like our president, where he says, I want income equality. I want to level the playing field. When he says level the playing field, he's not actually, that doesn't mean that the world becomes smooth. He's saying that on a figurative, manner to give you a visualization of what needs to happen. Now, unfortunately, that never happens. Like, the field is never leveled because it's always unfair. They're using slave labor over there. They're not paying anybody the money they deserve over there. So the field is never truly leveled. But that is part of the imagery. All right, hey, this Synchronicity 11, I'm going to have 11 part 2 coming up.